My mom cancelled my wedding saying, "We're not funding this circus." We're not funding this circus. My mother's voice cut through the living room like a blade, cold, final, absolute. I stood there in my work clothes, still holding my purse, trying to process what she'd just said. My wedding. My future. Everything I'd been planning for 2 years, gone with 5 words. My sister Brooke didn't even look up from her phone. "Better luck next time," she said, smirking like this was some kind of inside joke I wasn't getting. Dad sat in his recliner, staring at the golf tournament on TV like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. He always did that, disappeared into silence whenever Mom made her pronouncements about my life. I could have screamed. I could have cried. I could have begged like I used to when I was younger, when I still believed that if I just explained myself better, they'd understand. But I didn't do any of those things. Instead, I took a breath, straightened my shoulders, and said one word, "Understood." Then I walked out. The October air hit my face as I got into my Honda Civic, hands trembling as I shoved the key in the ignition. Through the rearview mirror, I could see the house, the perfectly manicured lawn, the autumn wreath on the door, the warm glow from the windows that made it look like a home instead of what it really was. They thought I'd come crawling back. They thought I'd break down and apologize for whatever imaginary crime I'd committed by falling in love with the wrong kind of man. They'd been waiting for this moment, I realized. Waiting for me to need them badly enough that I'd finally bend completely to their will. But as I drove away, watching that house shrink in my mirror, something shifted inside me. That word, "understood," had always meant surrender before. It meant, "You win, I give up, I'll be who you want me to be." Not anymore. 3 weeks later, when their perfect little world started crumbling, they finally learned what that word really meant coming from me. And it all started with a phone call I should have made years ago. From the outside, my family looked like something out of a Hallmark movie. The Harringtons of Maplewood, Connecticut, colonial house with black shutters, my mother's prize-winning roses lining the walkway, Sunday dinners that no one dared miss unless they wanted to be guilt-tripped for the next 6 months. But inside those walls, every smile came with strings attached, every laugh had conditions. My mother, Patricia, ran our family like a Fortune 500 company. She had opinions about everything: how we dressed, who we dated, what careers we pursued, even which friends were appropriate. My father, Richard, was her echo chamber, nodding along, never contradicting, always backing her up with his silence. And then there was Brooke. Golden Child didn't even begin to cover it. Whatever Brooke wanted, Brooke got. When she decided to major in communications, Mom threw a party. When she wanted to travel through Europe for 6 months after college, Dad wrote the check without blinking. Me? I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was 15. I filled sketchbooks with dress designs, spent hours watching Project Runway, dreamed about going to Parsons or Fit in New York. One Saturday afternoon, Mom found my sketches spread across my bed. She picked them up slowly, flipping through page after page, her mouth getting tighter with each drawing. Then she carried them downstairs and dropped them straight into the kitchen trash. "You're not wasting your life on pipe dreams, Morgan," she said, washing her hands at the sink like my drawings had contaminated them. "Fashion is for people who want to struggle and starve. You're going to study something practical." Dad was reading the Wall Street Journal at the table. He looked up, saw my face, then looked back down at the stock reports. Not a word. That's when I learned, in this family, silence kept the peace. So I became an accountant. Steady, safe, respectable, everything Mom wanted. I got my CPA, landed a good job at Henderson & Associates, bought practical blazers and sensible heels. Meanwhile, Brooke opened a boutique in downtown Hartford called Envision. Trendy clothes, expensive brands, the kind of place where everything costs 3 times what it should. Mom was there every other day, posting about it on Facebook, telling everyone how proud she was of her visionary daughter. I remember the grand opening. String lights everywhere, champagne flowing, Mom in her signature pearls, making a toast to my daughter Brooke, who never stopped dreaming. Never stopped dreaming. The words felt like a slap. Mine were in a garbage can. Then I met Danny. It was at a community fundraiser for Big Brothers Big Sisters, the kind of event my parents usually skipped because they only attended charity galas with open bars and silent auctions. Danny was volunteering there, running the basketball game with a bunch of teenage boys, laughing so easily it made everyone around him smile too. He worked for a non-profit, mentoring at-risk kids in Hartford. He drove a beat-up Ford Explorer with a dent in the back bumper. He wore jeans to nice restaurants. He asked me real questions about who I was, not just what I did or who my family was. With him, I wasn't Patricia's daughter or Brooke's boring sister. I was just Morgan. The first time I brought him home for dinner, Mom's smile turned to ice the second he mentioned his job. A youth counselor, she repeated, like he'd said drug dealer. How charitable. Dad just grunted something about serving the community in a tone that suggested Danny was serving up Big Macs. Brooke, sitting across the table in her designer dress, whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Guess ambition's optional these days." For 3 years, Danny stood beside me through their cold shoulders and passive-aggressive comments. We built our life together, movie nights in his cramped apartment, weekend road trips to the coast, planning a future that was ours, not theirs. When he proposed on a beach in Cape Cod, sunrise painting the sky pink and orange, I didn't even think about calling my parents first. I just said yes. We planned our wedding carefully. The Rosewood Estate in the Berkshires, beautiful historic mansion with gorgeous gardens, but not outrageously expensive. We saved every penny ourselves, working overtime, cutting costs where we could. Then Mom called. "Let us help with the wedding," she said. "I want the best for you, sweetheart. You're my daughter." I should have known better. I should have remembered the sketches in the trash. But I wanted to believe she'd changed. That morning when she called me back to the house, I thought it was about flower arrangements or final guest counts. I thought maybe, finally, we were going to have the mother-daughter moment I'd been waiting for my whole life. I was so stupid. The moment I walked through that door, I felt it. Something was wrong. The air was too thick, too quiet, like those seconds before a thunderstorm breaks. Mom stood by the fireplace, arms crossed, wearing her pearl necklace. She always wore those pearls when she wanted to remind everyone who was in charge. Brooke lounged on the couch, scrolling through Instagram, not even trying to hide her smirk. Dad was in his recliner, studying the carpet like it held the secrets of the universe. "Sit down, Morgan," Mom said. "I'm fine standing." Her jaw tightened. She hated when I didn't follow directions. "We need to talk about this wedding." "Okay. What about it?" "We've decided we can't support it." She said it so calmly, like she was declining an invitation to a book club. "We're not funding this circus." The word circus hit me like a punch. "Excuse me?" "That boy, Danny, is not right for you. He has no ambition, no prospects. You're settling, Morgan, and we won't enable it." Brooke laughed. "Better luck next time, sis." My hands started shaking. "You told me you wanted to help. You offered. And now we're UN offering," Mom said. "You can thank us later when you realize we saved you from a massive mistake." I looked at Dad. "You agree with this?" He cleared his throat, eyes still on that carpet. "Your mother knows what's best." That's when something inside me snapped. Not loudly, quietly, like a thread pulled too tight finally breaking. I could have argued. Could have explained that Danny made me happy, that love wasn't about bank accounts and corner offices. Could have begged them to see me, really see me, just once. But I'd spent 28 years trying to make them see me. I was done. "Understood," I said. Mom blinked. "What?" I said understood. I grabbed my purse, turned toward the door. "Morgan, where are you going?" "We're not finished." "Yes, we are." I walked out, got in my car, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw Mom standing on the front porch, hands on her hips, probably waiting for me to turn around and come back like I always did. But this time, I kept driving. The drive back to my apartment felt surreal. The trees were brilliant with fall colors, reds and golds and oranges, but everything looked washed out, like someone had drained the color from the world. My phone kept buzzing. Danny calling. I couldn't answer yet. I needed to think. Our wedding invitations sat on my kitchen counter when I got home. Cream cardstock with gold lettering, "Morgan Harrington and Daniel Cooper request the pleasure of your company." I stared at them for a long time before sweeping the whole stack into a box. When Danny showed up that evening, his face was full of worry. "What happened?" "They cancelled it," I said flatly. "Cancelled the wedding. Called the venue, the caterer, everything. It's done." His face went white. They can't just. They did. He stepped closer, reaching for my hand. Let me go talk to them. Maybe if I explain. No. My voice came out harder than I meant. This is my fight now. That night, after Danny went home, I pulled out my laptop and started going through documents. Every contract, every payment, every vendor for the wedding. Something felt off. You don't cancel an entire wedding overnight without planning it. The next morning, I called the Rosewood estate. Hi, this is Morgan Harrington. I just wanted to confirm. Oh, Miss Harrington, the coordinator interrupted. We received your cancellation notice yesterday. I'm so sorry things didn't work out. My cancellation notice? Yes, with your signature. Your mother dropped it off personally. My blood ran cold. Can you email me a copy of that? When the PDF came through, I stared at the signature line. It looked like my name, Morgan Harrington, all loopy letters, but it was wrong. The G was too big. The N was slanted. Someone had forged my signature. My own family hadn't just cancelled my wedding. They'd committed fraud to do it. I sat there in my apartment, hand shaking as I held my phone, and realized I was done playing by their rules. I Googled attorney fraud Connecticut and found Vivian Cross. Time to fight back. Vivian Cross's office was in a converted brownstone in New Haven, all exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. She was maybe 50, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that probably saw through every lie ever told in her presence. When I showed her the forged cancellation form, she didn't gasp or look shocked. She just put on her reading glasses and studied it like a puzzle. This isn't your signature, she said. No. And you didn't authorize your mother to sign on your behalf. Definitely not. She set the paper down. Then we're talking about fraud. Possibly identity theft, depending on what else they've done. Show me everything. I pulled out my folder, every contract, every invoice, every bank statement related to the wedding. Danny and I had opened a joint account specifically for wedding expenses, depositing money from each paycheck for 2 years. Vivian went through it all methodically, pen tapping against her desk in a steady rhythm that should have been annoying but was somehow reassuring. Then she stopped. This withdrawal, she said, pointing to a line on the bank statement. $2,500, transferred to Envision Boutique. That's your sister's store. I leaned closer. What? Why would? Vivian flipped to another page. Another one here. $3,800. And here, $5,000. She looked up. Morgan, someone's been siphoning money from your wedding account for months. My stomach dropped. Brooke. Not just her. Vivian pulled up more statements. These transfers here go to an account under your father's name. Looks like home renovations. This invoice is for a kitchen remodel. I felt like I was falling. They used our wedding money to fix their house. And fund your sister's business. Vivian's voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. Question is, did they do this with just the wedding account, or has this pattern been happening elsewhere? What do you mean? Do you have any other assets? Inheritance, trust funds, anything they might have had access to? I shook my head. No, nothing like that. My grandparents died when I was little, but they didn't have much. My phone rang. Uncle Greg's name flashed across the screen. Sorry, I said to Vivian. That's my uncle. I should take it, she said. I stepped into the hallway. Uncle Greg. Morgan. His voice sounded strained. We need to talk. It's about your grandfather's trust. Everything went still. What trust? The one he set up before he died. $250,000. It was supposed to go to you when you got married. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I didn't know about any trust. Your parents were supposed to tell you. They've been managing it. He paused. Morgan, I've been going through some paperwork, and funds are missing. A lot of them. I closed my eyes. How much? Almost $180,000. Withdrawn over the past 5 years. I leaned against the wall. Let me guess. Renovations? Boutique expenses? How did you? I'll call you back. I walked back into Vivian's office. She looked up from her notes. "We need to expand this case," I said. "It's not just the wedding. They've been stealing from me for years." Vivian's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Interest, maybe. Or anger on my behalf. "Tell me everything," she said. The Waterbury courthouse smelled like floor polish and old wood. I sat at the plaintiff's table next to Vivian, wearing my most professional navy suit, hands clasped so tight my knuckles ached. Across the aisle, my family looked smaller somehow. Mom's pearls caught the fluorescent light, but they looked dull. Dad's tie was crooked. Brooke kept checking her phone until the bailiff told her to put it away. When the judge entered, a stern-looking woman in her 60s, everyone stood. "Case number 8432, Harrington versus Harrington," the clerk announced. Hearing my own last name twice felt like being split in half. Vivian stood, buttoning her blazer. "Your Honor, this case involves systematic financial abuse, identity theft, and fraud spanning over 5 years. My client's family didn't just interfere with her wedding, they stole her inheritance." Mom's lawyer, some guy in an expensive suit who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else, objected immediately. "Your Honor, this is a family matter that should be resolved privately." A family matter. Vivian's voice stayed calm, but there was steel underneath. "Fraud is a crime, not a family matter." The judge nodded. "Proceed, Ms. Cross." Vivian laid it all out. The forged signature on the cancellation form. The withdrawals from the wedding account. The trust fund I didn't even know existed, drained over years to fund Brooke's boutique and my parents' renovations. She passed documents to the judge, bank statements, invoices, transfer records. Each paper landed with a soft thump that felt heavier than it should. Then Uncle Greg took the stand. He looked uncomfortable in his suit, like he'd rather be anywhere else. But when Vivian asked him about the trust, his voice was steady. "My father, Morgan's grandfather, set up a trust of $250,000 for her. It was supposed to release when she got married. Richard and Patricia were named as trustees to manage it until then." "And what did you discover about that trust?" "That over $180,000 had been withdrawn." The courtroom rippled with whispers. "By whom?" "By Richard and Patricia Harrington." Mom leaned over to her lawyer, whispering urgently. She was losing control of the narrative, and she hated it. "What were the funds used for?" Vivian asked. Uncle Greg pulled out his own papers. "Kitchen renovation, $50,000. New roof, $30,000. Multiple transfers to Envision Boutique totaling $85,000. The rest went to credit card payments and a boat." "A boat," Vivian repeated. "A 24-foot sailboat. Docked in New Haven Harbor." I hadn't even known they had a boat. Mom's lawyer tried to object. "Irrelevant, Your Honor," but the judge cut him off. "I'll decide what's relevant. Continue, Ms. Cross." Vivian called me to the stand next. Walking up there felt like moving through water. I put my hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and sat down. The whole courtroom was watching me. My parents. Brooke. Strangers. Danny, sitting in the back row with Uncle Greg. "Morgan," Vivian said gently, "when did you learn about your grandfather's trust?" 2 weeks ago. My uncle called me." "Your parents never mentioned it?" "Never." "What about the wedding account? Did you authorize any of the transfers to your sister's boutique?" "No. I didn't even know they were happening." Vivian nodded. "Your mother claimed she was protecting you by canceling the wedding. What do you think she was actually protecting?" Mom's lawyer objected, but I answered anyway. She was protecting herself. If I'd gotten married, the trust would have been audited. They would have been caught. Mom shot to her feet. "That's not true. We were trying to save you from making a mistake." The judge banged her gavel. "Mrs. Harrington, sit down." But Mom wasn't done. "That man, Danny, he's not good enough for you, Morgan. He works with criminals, he has no money, no prospects." "He's a good person," I said quietly, "which is more than I can say for you." Mom's face went red. Brooke stared at me with pure hatred. Dad just looked tired. Vivian called Brooke to the stand next. My sister walked up there like she was on a runway, head high, defiant. But when Vivian started asking questions, her confidence cracked. "Miss Harrington, did your parents give you money for your boutique?" "They helped, yeah. Parents do that." "How much?" "I don't know. Some. $85,000. Does that sound right?" Brooke's eyes widened. I didn't keep track." "This invoice," Vivian said, holding up a paper, "for your boutique renovation. It lists your father's signature and your sister's trust account number. Did you know the money came from Morgan's inheritance?" No. I didn't know." "Really? Because you signed off on this invoice. Right here." Vivian pointed to the signature line. Brooke's face drained of color. By the time Vivian rested her case, every secret was out. Mom tried to play victim. "We only did what we thought was best." Dad mumbled half-hearted apologies. Brooke cried, though I noticed she didn't use the tissues. When the judge finally spoke, her voice was ice-cold. "This court finds in favor of the plaintiff. All misappropriated funds from the trust will be returned immediately, with interest. Additional damages of $75,000 will be awarded for fraud, identity theft, and emotional distress." Mom gasped. Dad's shoulders sagged. Brooke looked like she might throw up. The judge wasn't done. "Furthermore, I'm recommending this case be reviewed by the district attorney for potential criminal charges." That's when Dad started crying. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel anything except tired. But when I walked out of that courtroom with Vivian, Danny waiting for me on the courthouse steps, I felt something else too. Free. 3 months later, I stood at the Rosewood estate again. Same archway where Mom's words had cut me down. But this time, everything was different. The garden was lit with string lights, tables draped in white linen. Simple, elegant, ours. The November air was crisp, smelling like wood smoke and fallen leaves. Danny waited at the end of the aisle in his dark grey suit, tie slightly crooked, smiling like I was the only person in the world. Uncle Greg sat in the second row, looking proud. Vivian was there too, wearing a dress instead of her usual power suit, actually smiling. My co-workers from the firm. Danny's kids from the mentorship program. People who actually loved us. No Mom adjusting my veil. No Dad walking me down the aisle. No Brooke making snide comments. Just me, walking myself. The violinist started playing 1,000 Years, not because it was trendy, but because Danny and I had danced to it in his kitchen one random Tuesday night. Every step felt like reclaiming something stolen. When I reached Danny, he whispered, "You okay?" "I'm more than okay." We said our vows, nothing fancy, just promises we meant. The officiant pronounced us husband and wife. Danny kissed me, and everyone clapped, and I realized I was crying. Happy tears. When was the last time I'd cried happy tears? The reception was perfect in all the ways that don't show up in photos. Uncle Greg gave a toast about how proud my grandfather would have been. One of Danny's kids, this teenager named Marcus, stood up and told everyone that Danny had saved his life. Vivian actually danced. Later, I slipped away for a moment, standing beneath an oak tree at the edge of the garden. I looked up at the lights and thought about how silence used to mean surrender. Not anymore. Inside, music drifted through the open doors. Danny found me, wrapped his arms around my waist. "What are you doing out here?" "Just thinking." "About?" "How my mom called my wedding a circus." I turned to face him. She was wrong. This is peace. We danced under the stars, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. That night, before we left for our honeymoon, I wrote one email. Short, clean, final. Patricia, Richard, and Brooke. The court showed who you really are. I wish you the best, but this is goodbye. Morgan. I hovered over the send button for maybe 5 seconds. Then I hit it. Outside, the stars were bright. Danny took my hand. We drove away from the Rosewood estate toward our new life, and I didn't look back once. The call started about 6 weeks later. First Mom. Then Dad. Then Brooke. Each one left the same kind of message. Soft voices, forced apologies, little trembles designed to trigger my guilt. "Sweetheart, can we just talk? We miss you." Morgan, Honey, things got out of hand. Can we meet for coffee? It's me, Brooke. I'm sorry, okay? Can you just call me back? I didn't answer. My phone would buzz on the counter while I made dinner, folded laundry, lived my life. Each vibration felt weaker than the last, like a dying battery. Then came the voicemail that made me stop. Mom's voice, different this time. Brittle. Tired. Morgan, it's Mom. Your father lost his job. The company downsized. And Brooke's boutique, it closed. We're trying to start over, but it's hard. We need help. Please call me back. I stared at my phone, not angry anymore, just empty. Through Danny's connections, I heard the full story. Dad had been let go after the fraud case became public. Apparently embezzling from your daughter's trust fund doesn't look great in the corporate world. Mom had taken a part-time job at Macy's, folding clothes in the juniors section. Brooke's boutique had gone under, drowning in debt, and now she was living in their basement. The same people who once controlled every aspect of my life couldn't even keep their own together. One evening in late January, my phone started ringing. Back to back to back. Mom. Dad. Brooke. Mom again. The screen lit up like a slot machine. I picked it up, typed slowly, and sent one text to all three. The circus is already full. Then I placed the phone face down, poured myself a glass of wine, and went back to my sketchbook. Because something had changed over these months. I'd started designing again. Not for anyone else. For me. Dresses, blazers, casual wear. Danny had cleared out a corner of our apartment for a sewing table. Bought me a professional machine for Christmas. You're really good at this, he'd said, watching me work. I used to want to go to design school. So do it now. I'd laughed. I'm 28. That ship has sailed. Says who? Your mom. He'd kissed my forehead. Stop living by her rules, Morgan. Even the ones still in your head. So I'd applied to the Fashion Institute of Technology's continuing education program. Part-time, while keeping my accounting job. And last week, I'd gotten my acceptance letter. The next morning, February sunshine poured through our apartment windows. Danny made pancakes, his specialty, though he always burned the edges. We ate them anyway, drowning them in syrup. You hear from them? He asked, nodding at my phone. Yeah. You gonna answer? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Part of me, the daughter I used to be, wanted to help. Wanted to fix things. Wanted to earn their love by saving them. But that daughter was gone. No, I said. They made their choices. I'm making mine. Danny squeezed my hand. Later that day, I sat at my sewing machine, working on a design for my first class assignment. The fabric was deep emerald green, the kind Mom always said was too flashy for a Harrington. I was making it into a cocktail dress with an asymmetrical hem. My phone buzzed one more time. Mom's name on the screen. I glanced at it, then back at my sewing. The buzz faded. The room went quiet except for the hum of the machine. Freedom didn't feel loud. It felt still, steady, earned. That night, Danny and I went to dinner at our favorite Italian place, this tiny restaurant in Hartford where they knew us by name. Sophia, the owner, brought us tiramisu on the house. You two are glowing, she said. Marriage looks good on you. Walking home, Danny's arm around my shoulders, I thought about Mom's words from that day in the living room. We're not funding this circus. Maybe she was right. Maybe my life did look like a circus to her, messy, unpredictable, not fitting into her perfect boxes. But it was my circus now. My rules, my choices, my happiness. And unlike her carefully controlled world that had collapsed under the weight of its own lies, mine was still standing. Strong. Real. Free. The show was over, and I was the one who walked away smiling. If you've ever had to choose yourself over family, you're not alone. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who refuse to see your worth, even when they're supposed to love you most.